Hello, my name's Ken Lewenza, former president of the CAW. I was pleased to respond to a call to say a few words on the day of mourning. So let me begin. April 28th is a significant day. For the last 30 years plus, and I say plus because it was the Canadian Labour Congress that pushed the government to recognize April 28th as a day of mourning and a day of recognizing workers and recognizing those who are injured. The labor movement from one community to the other have taken that day to pause, to recognize people that were killed, recognize people that were injured on the job, and recognize the incredible work we have to do every day within the labor movement to ensure workers go to work regardless of what occupation they have and go home safe for their families. That's always been the goal and objectives of the union. This year is much more significant. This year we're going into our 14th month of a pandemic where workers and citizens alike are dying in hospitals, dying in nursing homes. It's been an unusual 14 months. And you ask yourself, what should we mourn on April 28th? Today, we mourn those that have passed away. We mourn and recognize those that went through the incredible sicknesses of this particular pandemic and COVID. We're still in the middle of it, and hopefully someday we'll get our lives back to order. But it's a reminder to all of us that the activism that took place 30 years has a comparison to what's going on today with a pandemic. It's all about health and safety. It's all about preserving people's lives, enhancing people's quality of life. So I say to those in the labor movement today, think about how many people passed away in isolation without their family. How many people were put into hospitals sick and couldn't get any visitation. So therefore the anxieties that they face. Think about the folks in the nursing home that on a proportionate level died much more quicker, and the numbers were much more greater. And think about the reality is that the labor movement raised these weak conditions of nursing homes for quite some time now. We raised that they needed more service. We raised that they needed more respect. We raised that they needed more dignity. So what this pandemic has done is highlight all of the issues that we've been talking about for 3 decades now in terms of preserving the quality of life, not just for those at work, but those that are in hospitals, those that are at nursing homes, and as an extension to recognizing those folks, recognizing their family. So this has been a difficult year, but we again mourn those that have passed away on the job through no fault of their own. We mourn those that are on compensation and still fighting for the respect and dignity of being recognized as a comp claim, because our activists are still having those troubles today in terms of getting claims approved. In fact, I would argue it's tougher today than it was 20 years ago because of the bureaucracy of the compensation. So we have a lot of work to do on this April 28th. We recognize the last 30 years. We recognize the pandemic. We recognize the isolation that this pandemic has created. We recognize those that are injured and killed on the job in the last year. And we continue to recognize the health and safety activists. We are here at the monument that was installed as a result of the health and safety activists within the Windsor and District Labor Council. And I want to give special recognition to Rolly Marentat, who fought hard to get this monument built, to get the City of Windsor to install it on public property, to have it right next to the Peace Fountain, which is a recognition of the former president of Local 444, Charlie Brooks. So there's a lot of history around this monument. But when you take a look at the monument, it says exactly what we want to do. Mourn for the dead, fight for the living. That has been our goal. Mourn for the dead, fight for the living. And I repeat myself, mourning the dead today is much more significant as a result of the pandemic. Fighting for the living is more significant than it's ever been as we try to enhance the quality of life for all citizens in every single community, both in the workplace and outside the workplace. Every household in Canada and throughout the world has been affected. So on April 28th, we think of all those that have been affected as a result of COVID-19. We think of those that died again in isolation, without family, without friends. We think about those, quite frankly, that are still in the healing process that this pandemic has created. And we ask ourselves as a labor movement, is our work done? It's not done. It's just beginning. So we continue, and I emphasize that we mourn the dead, and we do it with the respect that those folks deserve. But we also fight for the living, which means every single human being on this earth is going to get the recognition, and we're going to continue to defend workers' right to go to work safely, and go back to their family without any injuries or death. I know it's a tall task, but it's a task and an objective that all of us should be excited about. The labor movement is the driving force to health and safety. The labor movement is the driving force to humanity. The labor union drives what kind of a community we want. So on April 28th, the 30th official year of recognizing those that were killed and injured on the job, we have a lot to think about, but we have lots of work. In conclusion, I want to thank all of the health and safety activists that continue to work and advocate on behalf of those members in the workplace to ensure their safety, to ensure that they're safe, to ensure that they don't die on the job. They deserve a lot of credit. To the local union leadership throughout this city and throughout the county, continue to do the hard work, because without you, then who? That's always been the position of CAW. Without the activists, without your efforts, without your determination, without your advocacy, our conditions would be much worse. So stand tall, be proud of yourself, and know that we have a lot of work to do. So thank you all very much, and let's continue the fight, and let's continue to make sure that those that are suffering from COVID get the support that they need in our healthcare system. And we learn this lesson, and we experience this lesson, and we improve the conditions in our healthcare system. How it affects the labor movement is very much significant. Let's take, for example, no visitation into nursing homes. What that means to the people that are in nursing homes, and what it means to people that do the visitation to provide the support. Let's take a look at hospitals. Limited visitation completely. Therefore, families can't provide support. The labor movement can't provide support to their members. This is personal to me, because my entire lifetime I have spent providing support to union members that require our support. When they're in the hospital, I'd like to believe we're going to be there as an extension to our representation, to make sure that the members are taken care of, to make sure the families got the support of the union, to make sure that those that are in care recognize that the labor movement's there for them. In the past year and a half, it has been deadly in terms of our ability to provide that support, to provide that encouragement. And then every once in a while, those of us in the labor movement will sit next to one of our members that are suffering from cancer. And we'll ask ourselves, is that a result of a work environment? We'll ask ourselves, could have we done something to make sure that this was not going to happen in the end of somebody's life or at the beginning of their work life? The reality is the work for the labor movement never stops. And I also want to recognize the healthcare workers in our community and throughout the country. They are stretched to the limit. They're working like crazy to resolve this pandemic, to work with the pandemic and the multiple issues that come with it. And they deserve our support, they deserve our appreciation, they deserve our recognition. So to those that are in nursing homes, our movement misses the opportunity to support you. Our movement misses the opportunity to be an advocate for you. Our movement, quite frankly, will be thinking about you on this day of mourning in recognitions of your struggles, your family struggles, and the struggles that are in our community. So COVID is about day of mourning, day of recognition. This pandemic, quite frankly, is serious and not something that we ever dealt with in our lifetime. But let's learn from this pandemic. Let's learn that our work is far from done. Let's learn that whatever happens as a result of this pandemic, we learn from it and we come out better. And the movement understands our work, not just in the workplace, but in the community, in those healthcare facilities that require our support. So keep up the good work. And once again, let's recognize those that have died as a result of COVID, those that have faced disabilities as a result of COVID, those that are locked up in their homes as a result of COVID. This has created a serious problem for all of us, and anxieties are setting in even to people like myself who no longer have the ability to provide that support. Quite frankly, it's been a terrible year and a half.